Okay, get this. There's this supposed money-making secret that people say made fortunes for like over 500 really wealthy individuals. Kind of grabs your attention,
It
right?
really does. Welcome, everyone, to the deep dive.
Yeah, welcome. We're the show that takes the sources you send us and pulls out the core insights. No fluff, just the good stuff.
And what's interesting right away is this idea of some hidden principle, almost like a universal key to getting rich that these people somehow found, makes you wonder what it actually is.
Exactly. And today we're diving deep into excerpts from Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. It's, well, a classic for a reason, I
For
suppose.
sure. And thinking about, our listener, the learner, who wants those solid takeaways fast, this should give them some really actionable ideas about achievement, maybe spark some aha moments without feeling totally buried in information.
Right. So our mission today, unpack these excerpts. Figure out the heart of Hill's message. How can you, listening now, reach your goals, especially financial ones, by understanding and using certain ways of thinking and acting? We've got some pretty compelling stories here, focusing a lot on mindset and, well, actually doing things.
Which brings up that first big question.
Yeah.
If there's this amazing secret, why doesn't he just, spell it out?
Mm.
Hill kind of frames it as something Andrew Carnegie hinted at, almost like a test for Hill himself.
Yeah, that's the intriguing part. The book keeps mentioning this core secret from Carnegie, but it's never just stated plainly. It feels more like Hill thinks you'll just get it as you absorb all the principles he talks about.
And he argues it through living these principles that the secret's power really shows itself. He gives examples like Arthur Nash, the tailor who turned his business around, or Stuart Austin Weir, who switched careers successfully into law.
And Jennings Randolph, who used something to become a congressman for a long time, and J.G. Chaplin, a university president who seemed to use this approach really effectively too. So it's not just about money, clearly.
Hill's core message seems to be that big success, big wealth, it's not just luck. It comes from having and using this fundamental secret, whether you realize you're doing it or not.
He even argues it's more important than, say, formal schooling. He points to John Wanamaker and Henry Ford, who didn't have tons of education. Now, he's not dismissing education entirely, but
Exactly. It's not saying learning isn't valuable. It's more about highlighting this deeper, more powerful element that drives people to achieve amazing things, something maybe beyond just academic credentials.
okay, so let's dig into a principle Hill does spell out, the power of desire, specifically what he calls a burning desire.
Yeah, he presents this as the absolute starting point, like an engine. Without that really intense, unwavering desire, he suggests the other principles just don't have the fuel they need.
And he tells that story about R.U. Darby, the 3 feet from gold one, to really hammer this home. What's the main point of that?
Well, it's a powerful lesson about persistence, isn't it? And, the danger of quitting right before you hit pay dirt. Darby's uncle, Jason Gold, gave up after hitting a rough patch, sold the equipment.
Right.
And then the new owner gets an engineer who finds this massive gold vein literally 3 feet from where the uncle stopped digging. Ouch.
It's such a vivid picture, isn't it, being that close? But Darby learned from it, right? The story doesn't end there.
No, Hill makes a point of that. Darby apparently learned a huge lesson. He later became really successful selling life insurance, and he said it was because he kept remembering 3 feet from gold whenever he felt like quitting. He basically turned that failure into fuel.
And this idea of desire being transmuted into gold, it's more than just really, really wanting something, isn't it?
Hill seems to see it as this intense mental energy, this focused desire connecting with some larger universal power, influencing things, opening doors, leading to actual tangible results, your mind actively shaping reality through how strong your wanting is.
We also get that great story about Edwin C. Barnes, his absolute determination to work with Thomas Edison. What's so striking about his approach?
Barnes is just pure single-mindedness. He didn't just want a job at Edison's company. His burning desire was to be a business associate, a partner. And Hill highlights that all bridges behind me moment. Barnes basically cut off any retreat. He had to succeed. That kind of commitment, well, it worked.
So building on that intense desire, Hill then talks about dreams and imagination. He says every great leader was a dreamer.
Yeah, this really puts vision front and center. Before anything big happens out here in the real world, it starts as an idea, a dream, a blueprint in someone's head.
And he lists all these figures to prove it. Founders of religions, Henry Ford and the affordable car, Edison and the light bulb, the Wright brothers dreaming of flying, all seemed impossible once.
Right? These are his practical dreamers. Yeah. People who have these huge visions, but also the the grit and the step-by-step approach to make them real. He suggests your success out there reflects the great riches in your imagination.
It's interesting he points out that even the Great Depression, a terrible time, actually created new chances for these practical dreamers.
Well, crises often shake things up, don't they? Old ways stop working. And that creates space for people with new ideas, new visions, to find opportunities others miss.
And the foundation for all these big dreams, that burning desire to be and to do, it always seems to come back to that initial powerful feeling.
Exactly. Dreams without that passion are just, well, daydreams. The burning desire gives you the energy, the drive to push through all the obstacles you're definitely going to face.
Now, Hill also talks about turning points, resilience. He noticed that for a lot of successful people, a really big shift often happened during some kind of crisis.
Adversity can be like a forge, right? It tests you, forces you to find strengths you didn't know you had. Often it's in getting through the tough stuff that people find real growth, maybe a clearer purpose.
He gives some amazing examples. John Bunyan writing Pilgrim's Progress in prison, O. Henry finding his writing talent in jail, Helen Keller achieving so much despite her disabilities.
These stories just show the incredible human ability not just to survive hardship, but to actually turn it into something powerful. Hill emphasizes channeling those strong emotions, even the bad ones, into constructive dreams.
And Helen Keller's life, wow. It's living proof that defeat is only final when accepted as reality. That's a really powerful thought.
It really highlights how much our internal view matters. As long as you refuse to give in, refuse to accept failure as the end, the possibility of success is still there.
Which leads us straight into belief and faith. Hill says there's a difference between just wishing and being truly ready to receive. What's that distinction?
Well, wishing can be passive. Right. Just hoping. Being ready implies this deep down belief that it's possible, and you're aligning your thoughts, your actions, everything with getting that outcome. It's like confident expectation.
And this is where he shares that really personal story about his son who had hearing problems. Can you walk us through that? It's pretty impactful.
Yeah, it really shows Hill's conviction and desire plus faith. His son was born basically without normal hearing. Doctors weren't optimistic. But Hill and his wife just believed he would eventually hear. They actively nurtured this belief in the boy, even using what Hill calls little white lies, telling him his lack of outer ears would actually be an advantage, get him special attention.
It's quite something how they framed it for him. Like teachers would focus on him more, people would buy his newspapers more readily because of it.
And amazingly, it seemed to work. Hill describes gradual improvements. He tells about the boy successfully selling papers, feeling that benefit directly. And later in life, inspired by getting a hearing aid himself, the son actually built a successful business helping others with hearing loss.
And that experience led Hill to declare, "Verily, there is nothing right or wrong which belief plus burning desire cannot make real." That's a huge statement about the mind's power.
It really sums up his core idea, doesn't it? That
Oh.
belief and desire working together have this almost magical power to shape reality and overcome huge obstacles.
He also talks about faith not just being passive hope, but something you can actively build using autosuggestion, like consciously feeding positive ideas to your subconscious.
Right. Autosuggestion is about deliberately, repeatedly telling your subconscious what you want, affirming your goals, building that belief. His self-confidence formula is basically a structured way to do that.
And what are the main parts of that formula?
Well, key things include having a definite, clear purpose, constantly focusing your thoughts on achieving it, building self-reliance, using your imagination to see yourself succeeding, being willing to provide value or service, and just generally keeping a positive attitude.
He uses that analogy of autosuggestion being like the rudder on a ship, steering your subconscious towards success or failure based on your thoughts.
It's a good picture. Our conscious thoughts are like the commands for the subconscious, shaping our deeper beliefs, which then drive our actions and, ultimately, our results.
Moving on, Hill really stresses that creating big fortunes starts with ideas, especially ideas backed by faith, solid plans, action, and persistence.
Yeah, this shifts the focus from just hard labor or inheriting money to the power of, well, thinking intellectual capital, turning innovative ideas into real value for people.
He uses the creation of U.S. Steel, sparked by Charles M. Schwab's idea, as a major example. Can you remind us of the key steps there?
Okay, so Schwab had this big idea about reorganizing the steel industry. He presented it with incredible confidence and detail in this crucial speech to big-time financiers, including J.P. Morgan himself. Hill points out the sequence. First, the powerful idea, then Schwab's absolute belief in it, then the careful plan he laid out, then the action giving that speech, and finally his persistence in making it happen.
And apparently that speech was so convincing it got Morgan and the others on board, leading to this massive corporation being formed.
It's a fantastic example of how a great idea, communicated with conviction and a solid plan, can attract the resources you need for huge success. Hill keeps saying, riches start as thoughts, limited only by our own minds, and faith is what removes those limits.
So practically speaking, what steps does Hill suggest for actually turning desire into reality?
Well, he refers back to his famous 6 steps to riches from earlier in the book. We don't have those detailed here, but the main idea is about consciously impressing your desire onto your subconscious mind with total certainty, absolute faith.
And he also advises visualizing yourself already having what you want and focusing on the service or value you plan to give in return.
Right. It reinforces that mental alignment. Picture it, feel it, plan the give back. He also warns against relying only on logic when planning, suggesting intuition, and the subconscious have roles to play too.
Okay, let's talk about the mastermind, this idea of a group of people working together harmoniously for a specific goal. Hill says nobody achieves great power alone.
The mastermind is all about synergy. The idea is that when 2 or more minds coordinate in harmony towards a definite purpose, the combined output, the energy, the ideas, is way more than just the sum of the individuals.
He brings up Carnegie again, right, saying Carnegie had this group of about 50 people in steel and credited a lot of his fortune to that collective power.
Carnegie really got the value of surrounding himself with people who had different skills and knowledge that he didn't. Hill explains it has both practical benefits, pooling knowledge, resources, and the sort of psychic aspect. Like connecting batteries together makes more power. Connecting minds in harmony creates more mental energy.
He mentions Henry Ford again, too, how Ford overcame his own lack of certain knowledge by teaming up with people who did have it.
Yeah, Ford built an empire by leveraging others' expertise brilliantly. But the key, Hill stresses, is perfect harmony in the group. If there's conflict or people pulling in different directions, it just doesn't work as well, or maybe not at all.
Which leads nicely into specialized knowledge. Hill draws a line between general education and the specific, deep knowledge you need for your particular goal.
General education gives you a base, sure, but it's getting and using specialized knowledge directly related to what you want to achieve that really moves the needle in a specific field. And Hill claims this kind of knowledge is usually out there, pretty accessible, and not necessarily expensive to get.
He lists places to get it. Your own experience, obviously, your mastermind group, colleges, libraries, special courses.
Right. But the crucial point he makes is that knowledge itself isn't power. It only becomes powerful when you organize it, make practical plans, and actually apply it towards a clear goal. A degree on the wall is just potential until you use it purposefully.
He also mentions how education itself is changing, needing more specialization, and even suggests something like an apprenticeship system for more hands-on experience.
Yeah, it reflects that shift towards skills. Deep expertise in a niche is what the market, what employers really value.
Okay, so how do you take all this, the desire, the knowledge, and make it work through, say, personal services, marketing yourself? Hill says pretty much all big fortunes started with either personal services or selling ideas.
That really grounds it, doesn't it? For most people, creating wealth starts by providing value to others, to your skills or your ideas.
And he really pushes aiming for leadership, not just being a follower. Points out the big difference in rewards, and lists qualities of good leaders: courage, self-control, fairness, clear plans.
These are the things that make people trust you, want to follow you. He also notes leadership is changing, moving away from just ordering people around towards getting buy-in, leading by consent.
He also lists reasons why leaders fail. Things like being disorganized, unwilling to do the less glamorous tasks, selfishness. It's good to know the pitfalls, too.
Definitely. Understanding those common mistakes helps anyone trying to lead avoid them.
And for marketing your own services, he gives practical tips. Write a clear summary of what you offer, like a personal brief, use your contacts, maybe even offer to work on trial to prove your value.
The idea is to be proactive, make it easy for people to see what you bring to the table. And he notes that shift from being a go-getter, just focused on yourself, to being a go-giver, focused on providing value first.
This takes us to Hill's look at why people fail. He says the biggest tragedy is people who try hard but still don't succeed. And his research apparently showed, 98% of people were failures.
It's a shocking number, really underscores why understanding the reasons for failure is so important if you want to avoid it yourself.
And he gives this long list of causes: lack of a clear goal, Not enough ambition, maybe not enough education, though he says you can overcome that. Not willing to pay the price. Negative personality, poor self-discipline, procrastination, quitting too soon. It's quite a list.
Looking at that list can be a real eye-opener. A chance for some honest self-assessment, See if any of those might be holding you back without you realizing it.
Which leads to his point about doing an annual self-analysis. Check in with yourself, identify faults, build on strengths. He even gives questions to ask yourself about your goals, your service, your habits.
Yeah, that regular self-reflection is key for growth. See what's working, what's not, and adjust course.
Hill also talks a lot about the opportunities available, especially in America at the time he was writing, emphasizing freedom. He uses the example of just having breakfast to show the benefits of the system.
He's highlighting the background systems, the economic engine, that allows for goods and services and therefore opportunities for people who provide value. He touches on criticisms of big business, but comes back to what he calls the law of economics.
Which boils down to,
Basically, that to get and keep riches long-term, you have to provide useful service. There's no shortcut around giving value for value received.
he uses examples like chewing gum or razor blades, seemingly small things that employ tons of people and generate huge exchange to show how the system rewards meeting needs.
The message is pretty clear. Opportunity is there if you're ready to provide something people find valuable.
Okay, let's hit decision and persistence. Hill calls procrastination a major enemy.
Indecision just stalls everything. He observed that really successful people tend to decide quickly and then change their minds slowly, carefully, not impulsively.
He uses the signing of the Declaration of Independence as this huge example of a massive decision with life or death stakes. He emphasizes the mastermind of those 56 guys risking everything together.
It's such a powerful illustration of collective, decisive action. How a group, totally committed to a purpose, can achieve incredible things through the power of their unified decision.
And then persistence. Just sticking with it, even when it's hard. He mentions the writer Fannie Hurst, how long she struggled before breaking through.
Persistence is often the make or break factor, isn't it? He lists things that help build it. Clear purpose, a plan, shutting out negativity.
And he also lists things that kill persistence. Fuzzy goals, putting things off, giving up easily.
Knowing those weaknesses is the first step to beating them. He gives 4 simple steps to build persistence. 1. Definite purpose with burning desire. 2. Definite plan, continuous action. 3. Mind closed to negativity. 4. Friendly alliance, people who encourage you.
Now this next one is a bit different. Sex transmutation. Hill calls sex desire the most powerful human drive and talks about channeling that energy into other things.
Yeah, sex transmutation, the way Hill explains it, is about redirecting that intense energy away from just the physical towards, say, creative work, intellectual pursuits. He thinks it can seriously boost mental activity and innovation.
He says this energy has 3 constructive uses. Making babies, maintaining health, and turning mediocrity into genius.
He really believed that people who reach genius levels often learn, maybe without even realizing it, how to harness this powerful energy. He even wonders if that's why people often peak creatively later in life. They've learned to manage this energy better. He connects personal magnetism to it, too.
Next up, the subconscious mind and the 6th sense. Hill sees the subconscious as this huge recording device for all our thoughts.
Right, and critically, he believed you can deliberately plant the thoughts you want in your goals, your purposes, through repetition and emotion. Thoughts mixed with strong feelings have the biggest impact.
And the 6th sense. What is that for Hill?
He describes it as creative imagination, like a receiver picking up new ideas, inspirations, hunches. He suggests it can even warn you of dangers or alert you to opportunities, especially once you've mastered the other principles.
And then there's his very personal technique, the invisible counselors, holding imaginary meetings with historical figures to sort of absorb their best qualities.
It's a fascinating visualization technique, isn't it? A way to use suggestion to consciously cultivate traits you admire by mentally meeting with people who embodied them. He saw it as connected to how great leaders use that 6th sense.
He then tackles the need to beat the 6 ghosts of fear. Poverty, criticism, ill health, loss of love, old age, and death. He says these fears are mostly subconscious and really destructive.
Yeah, recognizing and fighting these is crucial because they can undermine everything else. For each fear, he talks about where it comes from, how it shows up, and importantly, the positive mindset needed to counter it, like fighting fear of poverty with desire and faith in abundance, or beating fear of criticism with self-reliance.
He also personifies worry as old man worry, born from fear and indecision, and calls being susceptible to negative influences even more dangerous than the fears themselves.
The cure for worry, he says, is decisive action. And guarding against negativity takes willpower, conscious effort, and choosing your environment and associates wisely.
The final point we looked at was the habit of alibying, making excuses. Hill's pretty blunt. The world only cares about results, not why you didn't get them. He lists common excuses and says his philosophy makes them all invalid.
He argues that people cling to excuses because, well, we create them, and it's human nature to defend our own creations. But he stresses that building alibis is a habit, and it's absolutely fatal to success.
So wrapping up this deep dive into Think and Grow Rich, a few big ideas really stand out. That absolute need for a burning desire to start anything big, the power of working together in a mastermind, and how vital it is to face down those 6 ghosts of fear.
And also that foundational role of belief, unwavering faith, the idea that big things start as thoughts, and, of course, persistence. You absolutely need that to get through the tough patches.
So for you listening, maybe take a second to think. Which of your own core beliefs might be working, maybe behind the scenes, as either a powerful engine for you or maybe like an invisible anchor holding you back?
Yeah, what's that burning desire that really gets you fired up, the one you're now ready to commit to transmuting into your reality?
Some powerful questions there. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive.